Hi everyone, I'm Helen from Susan's family. Today, I'll show you the Secret Garden series, the flower pover, for this electronic tutorial. You can search for susud.com on the website to view it. The sweater is divided into several parts: front piece, back piece, sleeves, collar, and decoration. First, knit the front and back pieces separately, and sew together the shoulder and body parts. After completing these sections, knit the sleeves and connect them. Finally, make and attach the decorations. Let's start with the front piece. It is divided into 3 sections: the hem, the body, and the shoulder parts. Start by casting on and crocheting upwards for the body and shoulder parts area. Afterwards, pick up stitches to crochet the hem. Now let's take a look at the chart. Here, the chart is in a grid format. One square in the chart represents 1 stitch, which corresponds to 1 loop while crocheting. The position of stitches together, whether it's several stitches combined into one, always occupies 1 square on the chart. These blank areas do not require any crocheting. When counting the number of stitches in each row here, count the number of squares, and match it with the number of loops on the straight needle. The numbers on the edges of the chart indicate the row count. The arrows show the direction of crocheting. Odd numbered rows on the chart are worked on the right side. The chart is read from right to left. Even numbered rows are worked on the wrong side. The chart is read from left to right. At the same time, work the opposite stitch technique on the wrong side. There are quite a few stitch techniques used here. All of them will be labeled in the chart. I won't go through each one with examples. Now, please watch as I demonstrate the specific crocheting method. For convenience in watching, a single cotton yarn will be used for the demonstration in subsequent tutorials, and the color will be random. For specific yarn, color schemes, and hook sizes, please refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. Let's start by casting on. We'll use the provisional chain cast on method. Please refer to the demonstration. First, provisional chain cast on. Can directly use scrap yarn in a different color from the fabric at home. Make a loose knot with the yarn. After casting on the required number of stitches, there will still be 1 loop on the right needle. The loops on the left needle are the required number of stitches. Leave about 10 centimeters of yarn tail and fasten off. Stretch the loop. Pass the yarn tail through the loop. Gently tighten it. Tie a knot on this yarn tail as a marker. This is the provisional chain cast on method. After completing the cast on, start working row 1. This row requires knitting stitches. Rejoin the yarn to continue knitting. For convenience while watching, I'll use a different color for demonstration. Tie the yarn with a slip knit. Start crocheting from the end with the yarn tail, where you tied a knot. Insert the left needle into the loop. Place the slip knit on the needle. Pick it out. Release the loop. Complete the first stitch. Adjust the size of the loop. Pay attention that the yarn tail and knot do not pass through the loop. Continue crocheting downward. Finish the last stitch, and the first row will be completed. Move on to the second row. Turn your work. The chart shows knit symbols for this row. You need to work the opposite stitch. So, purl this row. Complete this entire row. Done with the last stitch. The second row is now completed. Proceed to the third row. This row requires a pattern stitch. Start with one knit stitch. Then work 1 K2 tog, knit 2 together. Follow with 2 spo, slip, knit, pass over. First stitch. Second stitch. Then work 1 yarn over stitch. And knit 1 stitch. Continue repeating the yarn over and knit stitches. Do this 4 times. Once. Twice. The third time. The fourth time. After completing, work 1 more yarn over stitch. Then knit 2 stitches and work 1 K2 tog, knit 2 together. Following with 1 S2 co, slip 2, knit, pass over. Begin by knitting in the knit stitch pattern. Slip 2 loops from the left needle without knitting them. Then knit 1 stitch. Take the 2 slipped loops that were not knitted before. Pick them up. To cover the loop of the 1 stitch on the left side. And slip it down. This completes the S2 co, slip 2, knit, pass over. You can see that the middle stitch's loop is placed above the loops of the stitches on both sides. Continue downward and knit 2 spo. I consider the first yarn over up to this point as a pattern group. Continue knitting the pattern group downward. Start with 1 yarn over, 1 knit stitch, and repeat this 5 times. After completing, knit 1 stitch with a yarn over, then knit 2k2 tog. Afterwards, do S2 quo. Then knit 2 spo again. That completes one pattern group. Continue to follow the chart to knit the rest of the row behind. The last stitch here is a knit stitch. This concludes the method for the third row. Move on to the fourth row. This entire row consists of purl stitches. Start by matching the corresponding stitches. When you come to the position for yarn over, just pick up and knit the corresponding loops normally. Continue knitting downward. Finish the last stitch. That completes the fourth row. For the remaining rows of the body, the pattern positions will be staggered. No new stitches or techniques are used. Everyone should refer to the chart and complete the corresponding body section according to the pattern. That concludes the explanation for the body section. Next, we'll cover the shoulder parts. Here, short rows are needed on both sides of the shoulders to form the sloping shape. At the neckline, stitches need to be bound off to create the neck opening. Start by knitting the left shoulder part first. The left and right here refer to the actual left and right when wearing it. In the crocheting process, some positions on the inner side need to be bound off. Afterward, leave some stitches for short row knitting in specific spots. Here, you'll do a short row on the right side. After finishing the last part, you need to hold stitches. After completing, join the yarn again. Bind off the stitches at the neckline section. Then proceed to knit the right shoulder part. Similarly, during the knitting process, some rows will require binding off stitches on the inner side. Some rows will need left side stitch holds for short row knitting. Finally, you need to hold stitches. Next, I'll explain in detail how to bind off the neckline. The method for right side stitch hold short rows. The method for left side stitch hold short rows. And the last held stitches. Everyone can learn first. And then knit according to the pattern chart later. Please watch the demonstration. Let's learn a relatively common method for neckline decrease stitches, which is decreasing stitches by using purl stitches. This will create the desired curve. Assume this is the front piece neckline. Therefore, this side is the left shoulder, and this side is the right shoulder. Sometimes, the shoulders require short rows. There are no short rows here. We're only explaining the neckline decrease stitches. Let's start with the left shoulder. This chart has fewer stitches. The focus is on explaining the method. First, knit the first row of the neckline. That is, start by knitting 13 knit stitches. If there are more stitches, you can use a stitch marker first to separate these stitches before continuing. I've already finished the first row. The remaining loops are on hold for now. Next, we'll work the second row. The second row is worked on the wrong side. You can see that this row starts with binding off 3 stitches in a row. If there are more consecutive stitches to bind off, we can separate them with a stitch marker first. Start binding off. You can begin with a slip stitch first. Then work 1 purl stitch. Next, pass the previous stitch over the next one. That's how you bind off 1 stitch. Continue with another purl stitch. And bind off 1 more stitch. Unless otherwise specified. On the wrong side, you just purl and bind off at the same time. There is 1 stitch remaining on the right side of the marker, which is the loop of the 3rd stitch. We need to bind this stitch off. Therefore, you need to work 1 more stitch and bind it off. The following stitch is the one adjacent to the last bind off symbol. Here we just work a purl stitch. Pay attention that, as the stitch technique may vary depending on the pattern group, you need to refer to the chart for this stitch. After finishing the stitch, bind off the 3rd stitch. This way, the 3 stitches on the chart are bound off. Continue to follow the diagram for crocheting. Note that the next step should begin from the 2nd stitch, next to the bind off symbol. Before starting, slightly tighten this loop to prevent any noticeable chain spaces. There's no special pattern here, so we'll knit all in purl stitches. Now, the 2nd row is explained. Next, work on the 3rd row. Refer to the chart. Just knit throughout. I've already finished it. Continue with the 4th row. You only need to decrease 2 stitches at the beginning here. The method is identical to the 1st row. Start with one slip stitch. Then work one purl stitch. And decrease one stitch. Continue with one purl stitch. And decrease one stitch. Slightly tighten the loops. Then purl all the remaining stitches, and finish the 5th row as well. Now, I've already completed the 5th row. Continue with the 6th row. At the beginning of this row, just bind off one stitch. The method is the same as decreasing the first stitch in the first row. After completing that, purl all the remaining stitches. For the remaining 7th and 9th rows, knit all stitches. The 8th row is identical to the 6th row. Starting with slipping one stitch knitwise, there's no need to decrease in the 10th row, just purl as usual. Now, I've finished these 10 rows. In the end, there should be 6 stitches remaining. Here, the notation refers to hold stitches. That is, you need to temporarily secure these loops. We can temporarily secure with scrap yarn. If there are no special requirements for the yarn tail, leave about 15 centimeters and cut. Mind that the loops don't slip off. The left shoulder is now finished. Next, start on the right shoulder. Before crocheting, we need to decrease 9 stitches in the middle first. You can use a stitch marker to separate them. Pick up the new yarn. Make a slip knit. And slightly tighten the small loop. Start with 2 knit stitches. Then bind off one stitch. Knit one more stitch. Bind off another stitch. If there's no special instruction, on the right side, it's binding off while knitting the stitches. Continue to bind off the remaining stitches. Similarly, pay attention that, when binding off the last loop, the stitch you're working on. Which is the first stitch to the left of the bind-off symbol? Should be knit according to the corresponding stitch pattern on the chart. Here we continue to knit and bind off. After completing it, start from the second stitch and finish this row. Then, on the wrong side, work the entire second row in purl stitches. Now I have already finished the second row. Continue working on the third row. Start by binding off 3 stitches in a row. You can begin with 1 slip stitch and 1 knit stitch. Bind off 1 stitch. Continue knitting and binding off stitches. Now, the 3 stitches have been bound off. Continue to finish the third row and complete the fourth row. Now I have already finished the fourth row. At the beginning of the fifth row, you need to bind off 2 stitches. The bind off method is the same as the first 2 stitches of the third row. For the 7th and 9th rows later on, you will also bind off 1 stitch at the beginning. The bind off method is the same as the first stitch of the third row. I will continue to finish the remaining part of the right shoulder. Now I have already finished the right shoulder. There should be 6 stitches left here. Temporarily secure these 6 stitches. That's it for the method of decreasing stitches for this neckline. For the short rows on the right side, you can see that 6 rows need to be wrapped and turned here. The first row is worked on the wrong side, leaving 5 stitches unworked at the end. I have already finished it. The second row is worked on the right side. First, knit a yarn over on the right needle like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. Then, knit 1 by 1 evenly to finish this row. Once completed, continue with the third row. For this row, in addition to the initial 5 stitches, leave another 4 stitches unworked at the end. Note that the yarn over is not included. Once completed, continue with the fourth row. The method is the same as the second row. First, yarn over once like this. Then knit one slip stitch. Then follow the chart and finish the rest of the row as usual. For the fifth row, leave another 4 stitches at the end. Similarly, yarn over doesn't count. The method for row 6 is also the same as row 2. I will now continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the short rows. Finally, you need to knit one more row to eliminate the row difference, also known as eliminating the row. First, knit the purl stitches evenly until one stitch before the yarn over. After completing this, switch the position of the yarn over and the stitch on the left side first. Then knit them together as one purl stitch. Each time you reach the yarn over position in the back, you need to switch the position of the yarn over and the stitch on the left side. Then knit them together as a purl stitch. Continue knitting the rest of the row. Now, the row elimination is completed. You can take a look. This is how the right side looks. And this is how the wrong side looks. This is the short row technique with held stitches on the left side. You can see that 6 rows of short rows are needed here. For the first row, work it on the right side and leave the last 5 stitches unknitted at the ending. I have already finished this row. For the second row, work it on the wrong side First, knit a yarn over like this on the right needle. Don't yarn over too loose. Then knit 1 slip stitch. After that, work purl stitches evenly to finish this row. Once done, continue with the third row. At the end of this row, in addition to the first 5 stitches, reserve another 4 stitches unworked. Note that this yarn over is not counted. Once completed, continue with the fourth row. The knitting method is identical to the second row. First, yarn over once like this. Then knit 1 slip stitch. Next, refer to the pattern and finish the rest of the row normally. For the fifth row, leave 4 stitches unknitted at the end. Similarly, yarn over doesn't count. The sixth row also follows the same method as the second row. I will continue and finish these 2 rows. Now, I have completed the short rows. Finally, you need to knit 1 more row to eliminate the row difference, also known as eliminating the row. First, knit 1 by 1 evenly until the first stitch before the yarn over. After completing that, knit together the yarn over and the 1 stitch on the left side as 1 knit stitch. Every time you reach the yarn over position in the back, you need to knit together the yarn over and the 1 stitch on the left side. Continue knitting until the end of the row. Now, the row elimination is completed. You can take a look. This is how the right side looks. And this is how the wrong side looks. Sometimes, in order to make the row counts on both sides identical, you may need to knit one more row. Everyone can follow the pattern chart specifically for knitting. That concludes the explanation of knitting the shoulder parts. Now, let's move on to knitting the hem. First, unravel the starting stitch and pick out the loops. Then knit the corresponding pattern according to the chart. You need to switch colors in the last few rows. After finishing all rows, bind off with a single rib stitch. Then I'll demonstrate separately the methods for casting on, ripping out stitches, picking up loops, switching colors, and binding off in single rib stitch. Similarly, everyone learns first, and then matches up with the chart for corresponding crochet. Please watch the demonstration. Before knitting, you need to pick up stitches first. Here, I will demonstrate using a small sample. Everyone should refer to the actual project in your hands. You can watch me demonstrate first, then proceed with your own work. Place the wrong side of the fabric facing you. Locate the yarn tail at the end of the starting chain, which is the yarn tail with the knot. Unravel this part. Be careful while unraveling. Insert the circular needle from the right side into the stitch loop. That is the stitch loop from the first round of knitting. Then, remove the starting chain loop. Do it slowly, to prevent the loops from slipping off. Continue inserting the needle from the right side into the stitch loop. Remove the starting chain loop. Pick up the stitches. Unravel the yarn. When viewed from the right side, the texture of the loops looks like this. Continue picking up stitches using this method. Don't forget the last stitch loop. Flip the piece to the right side. This completes the process of picking up stitches. Pay attention to check the number of stitches. It should match the starting chain count. Here, I'll demonstrate with a swatch. After completing one row, leave a 10 cm tail for the yarn you need to switch out and cut it. Then, take the corresponding yarn for the next row. There will be a yarn tail here. You can tie a knot on the tail if needed. And push it down to the bottom. Then, attach the new yarn, and continue crocheting the corresponding stitch pattern. This completes the color change. On the wrong side, weave in the yarn tails following the same color texture. This is the method for switching colors when there are yarn tails. Next, I'll demonstrate again how to switch colors when there are no yarn tails at the joining position. Take the new yarn and tie a loose knot. Secure it in place. Then, use the new yarn to crochet the corresponding stitch pattern. Pay attention to ensure the knotted part doesn't show on the right side. If the edge stitch technique is special, you can also secure the yarn on the wrong side of the edge if needed. Then secure the new yarn and continue crocheting. Weave in ends on the wrong side as well. This is the method for switching colors. For any color change positions later, you can switch colors using this method. Single rib bind off, which involves changing the position of the yarn by moving the right needle. After finishing the single rib stitch, this bind off method can be used. Here I have a small piece of single rib fabric. First, work 2 stitches in the opposite stitch pattern from the texture below. For this small piece, the first stitch below is a chain, while below the second stitch is a horizontal line. So start with 1 purl stitch. Then work 1 knit stitch. Next, bring the first stitch forward to cover the second stitch, and slip it off. This way, you've decreased 1 stitch. Continue working 1 stitch in the opposite stitch pattern from the texture below. Here is a braid. You should work 1 purl stitch. Before stitching, use your left hand to pinch the bottom of the loop on the right needle. Take the needle out. Place it under the yarn, then reinsert it back into the loop. Then work the purl stitch. Next, bring the first stitch forward to cover the second stitch. This way, you've decreased another stitch. Continue working 1 stitch in the opposite stitch pattern from the texture below. Here is the horizontal line. You should work 1 knit stitch. Before stitching, take the needle out. Place it above the yarn, then reinsert it back into the loop. Work 1 knit stitch. Then bring the first stitch forward to cover the second stitch. This way, you've decreased 1 more stitch. Each time, you need to crochet in a stitch pattern that is opposite to the texture below. And, before knitting, you need to change the position of the yarn by moving the right needle. When working a purl stitch, the yarn stays above. When working a knit stitch, the yarn stays below. Let's continue to bind them off. When only one loop remains, secure it and weave in the ends. This is the method for binding off in single rib stitch. That's all for the explanation of the hem knitting at this point. Up to this point, the entire process of crocheting the front piece has been covered.